All right, good morning, Cougs. Welcome to the Daily Coug Connect for July 16th, 2020. My name is Erin Hansen, and I am a human resource consultant based on the Everett campus. Today, I am here to bring you part 2 of my tips and tricks for the Microsoft Office suite of programs. We covered Microsoft Word tips and tricks on July 2nd, and today we will discuss Microsoft Outlook. So before we begin, as with the previous session, a quick tip for everyone is that many of the functions we use today will use one or more of the keys on the screen, Control, Shift, and Alt. Also, please note that these actions are specific to Windows platforms, though my understanding is many of these work in either operating system, the difference being that with Apple, instead of using the Control key, you'll use the Command key. So as with part 1, we'll first take a look at the main keyboard keys we'll be using. And yes, you're all very welcome that I did not include any kind of a corny pun today. The keys shown outlined in purple here are going to be the keys that we use most frequently. We'll also use the keys in the blue boxes, those being the up, down, right, and left arrows, page up, page down, home, end, insert, and delete, as well as some of the number keys, which you see highlighted in green up near the top. The keys highlighted in yellow, when paired with one of the keys in purple, are the most frequently used in today's presentation. And now, before we get into the real meat and potatoes of the presentation, a bit of a word of caution here is that this may get a little bit confusing because some of the functions that we're going to cover today work differently depending on what part of Outlook you're in, meaning your inbox, your calendar, your tasks, etc. So we'll talk about that a bit during the next few minutes and go over some alternatives and things to keep in mind. So now, while we could talk about all the cool things you can do when you're composing something in Outlook, we're going to gloss over most of that since almost everything we covered in part 1 is going to function the same way when you're composing or creating something in Outlook. So this could be an email, whether it's a new email that you're forwarding or writing rather, or something you're forwarding or replying to, or this could be like an appointment, a meeting, a task, a contact, etc. So basically, if you want to use some of the formatting shortcuts we used in part 1, you'll use the same shortcuts when you're composing something in Outlook as you would if you were composing it in Word. And for those of you who didn't already watch part 1, head over to the Daily Coug Connect page on the HRS website and navigate to the View Past Recorded Daily Coug Connect Sessions link and take a look at part 1 after we finish today. So remember, the functions listed on the screen are for formatting your text within something you're creating. Again, this could be an email, a meeting request, a task, whatever. And generally, they only work so long as you are in HTML format. And for those of you who care to know, that stands for Hypertext Markup Language. This isn't the case for contacts or tasks, which don't distinguish between HTML and plain text, but it is the case for emails, meetings, and appointments. We'll talk about how to check on whether you're in HTML format when I demonstrate some of these tasks in my Outlook in a few minutes. So things like bold, underline, italicize, copy, paste, undo, redo, format painter, autocorrect, all the different ways that we looked at navigating through a document or deleting things quickly, you can use all that in the same way. Now, to learn some new material. So starting off, we'll look at control functions within your mailboxes. So these could be in your inbox, your outbox, or any folders or subfolders. As with tips and tricks part 1, again, I'm going to first address the ones which are easier to remember because of mnemonics. So these first few are some of the more commonly known key shortcuts. Similar to Word, these are geared toward navigating through Outlook and performing fairly high-level functions. So Control N is to open a new item, like in Word, where it opens a new document. O is to open, which in this case will open an email in a new window. S saves an email, P prints. Now, here's where we deviate a bit from the functions in Word. Whereas Control F is fine when you're in Word, when you're in your mailbox, Control F is going to forward an email. Control D is to delete an email, Control R is to reply, and Control U marks an email unread. So whereas when you're composing an email or a document, Control U is going to underline your text. When you're in your mailboxes, it'll mark something unread. And while these functions listed on the screen apply to the mail function, most are also going to apply similarly in other functions as well. So if instead of being in my mailbox, I'm in my calendar and I press Control N, it's going to create a new calendar event. If I'm in my contacts and I press Control N, it will create a new contact, etc. The main differences here are that Control R won't reply to something when there's nothing to reply to. So for example, if it's a task that isn't based off an email or something. And Control U won't mark things like tasks or contacts as unread, unless of course the task was created using an email or something that could actually be unread. So again, a little confusing, but it's fairly common sense stuff if you just take a second to think about it. Now let's talk about looking at more than just emails. So as you know, Outlook has different functions. You've got your email, your calendar, and your contacts, etc. Using Control and the number keys will allow you to quickly navigate between these functions. So Control 1 will switch to your email, 2 switches to your calendar, 3 goes to contacts, 4 goes to tasks, 5 goes to your notes, and 6 goes to your folder list in the navigation pane. The way I remember these is that they're in the same order at the bottom of my screen in Outlook. So again, I'll call that out in a moment when we look at my Outlook. Now within Outlook, if I use the Control plus Shift and I, it's going to switch directly to my inbox, and Control Shift O will switch directly to my outbox. When it comes to creating items, as we discussed a moment ago, so long as you're in your mailbox, you can create a new email by pressing Control N. However, if you're elsewhere in Outlook, so for example, if you're in your calendar, it's going to create a new calendar button if you use that Control N function. So these functions using Control Shift and a letter work regardless of what part of Outlook you're in. So you could be in your mail or you could be in your calendar or what have you. So if you want to create a new message, you'll need to press Control Shift M. Control Shift A will create a new appointment. Control Shift Q opens a meeting request. Control Shift C creates a new contact. Control Shift E creates a new folder. Control Shift N creates a new note, and Control Shift K creates a new task. As you'll see, I bolded some of the letters here to help you more easily remember which letters correspond to which function. And I admit that the E in folder is a bit of a stretch, but let's just roll with it because I can't think of a better reason. All right, so some more actions are shown here. You can use Alt-R to reply all, or you can use Control-Shift-R for the same function. Control-G will go to a specific date on your calendar, so if you're navigating through multiple years of dates, that's a really handy function. You can also use the Insert key to quick flag an unopened message. These next few help you find an item, so you can simply press F3, but I personally don't use my function keys, the F keys at the top, very often, so it comes more naturally to me to use the Control-E function to move the cursor to your search bar. And you can use Control-Shift-F to open your advanced find function. You can also use Control-Alt-Z to expand your search to include your subfolders. Control-Shift-G will flag a task for follow-up. Now here are some navigating and creating functions. So Control plus the period will move to a next message in an inbox or any kind of a folder. Control comma will move to the previous message. And then Control Y will allow you to navigate to a different folder fairly quickly. Alt S is to send an email, or you can use Control Enter. And you can also use Control Shift N to create a new sticky note if you're a fan of using those. And now last but absolutely not least, these are some of my more fun and or handy ones. These are the ones I consider the work smarter tips. First, I use tasks and flagging all the time in my inbox to remind me to follow up with something. It can be really difficult to keep track of all the emails that come in during a given day and which ones have been addressed or responded to and which ones haven't. So if I can't tackle something immediately, I'll flag it so I remember to follow up later, or sometimes I'll also just mark it as unread so I remember to go back to it. In addition to the Control-Shift-G that I showed you on one of the previous slides, you can also just click that flag in your inbox on that specific email, or you can create a task from an email by simply dragging and dropping the email into the tasks folder. For those of us who have ever sent an email to the wrong person, deleting a contact from your address autocomplete is a big lifesaver. I also love the ignore function. WSU isn't so bad about this, but I've had previous employers where people like to send an email to the entire company and then everyone likes to reply all, even if it's something that's not necessarily relevant to everyone. So, you know, so-and-so Joe in Tampa sends an email and says, congratulations, Stacy, on your big sale. And then everybody in Tampa responds and says, great job, Stacy, way to go, congratulations. And then your inbox very quickly becomes inundated and very full and hard to keep track of and kind of manage things. So if you mark something ignore, that's going to automatically move that to your deleted mail, and anything following it in that thread will go to the deleted mail. Also, a word of caution there is that if your subject line is the same later on, maybe even 2 years down the road for some other reason, that's still going to put that into your deleted box, so keep that in mind. Control K checks names, which is a useful function when you work for a large organization like WSU. We'll talk about that in a moment. Another thing I do to optimize my inbox is create mailbox rules, so things like newsletters don't clutter up my inbox. I have a 2-minute delay on my outbox with the ability to override it. So if you're ever in a time crunch, you can quickly send something using the override function, or otherwise essentially allows you to, if you just have that moment where you go, oh no, I meant to include someone else in my email, or I meant to say something else before I actually press send, it allows you to go back into your outbox and pull that email back and continue to edit it. I also love the quick parts and email template functions in Outlook, because there are a handful of emails I end up writing repeatedly. So instead of A, drafting a new email, or B, looking through my sent mail and copy pasting the content, with just a few simple clicks, I can drop it into a new email or reply. So with all that, let's go take a look at these functions. And in the interest of time, rather than go through each function one by one, I'm going to jump around a little bit and I'll review some of the trickier and or more involved functions. Alrighty. So here is my Outlook, and as you can see, I'm currently in my calendar. So, share a different screen. That's better. Now you can see my calendar. So here we are on my calendar. Like I said, if you want to create a new email, you'd use Control-N normally, but since I am not in my mail function right now, what it's going to do is instead create a new calendar event. But I don't want to do that. I wanted to create an email. So I can either go up here and I can press the little X to close out, or I can just use escape and close out that way. So then if I say Control-1, I'm going to switch to my email. And then I can say, Control-N, new, great, now I'm creating a new email. But for demonstration purposes, we're going to go back to the other version. So I'm going to escape out of that, and I'm going to go Control-2 to switch back to my calendar. Now I'm going to say Control-Shift-M, which is going to create my new message. First, we'll talk about the Control-K check names function. So say I want to send an email to Jacob Murray. We have two Jacob Murrays, as you can see. We've got Jacob Owen and Jacob Ashton Murray. If I say Murray, comma, J, I now have got both those up. I press Control-K, and it's going to open the check names function. So now I can see, okay, do I want to send it to Jacob Ashton Murray, who's the clinical assistant professor on the Everett campus with Boylan College, or do I want to send it to Jacob Owen Murray, the recruitment specialist within HRS? So I'm going to say I want to send it to Jacob within HRS. There are multiple people within the university who have the same names, so keep that in mind. It can be a really handy function there. One other thing I do, and I didn't talk about this in my slides, but I want to make sure that people are aware of it, is if you want to prevent yourself from sending an email too soon or unintentionally, one thing you can do is put something in your CC or your BCC or even your to field that is not an actual valid email address, because that will prevent Outlook. Outlook will kind of have a moment where it goes, wait a second, I can't send this email. What do you want me to do? So instead of like creating a delay or something, one thing you can do is just type random things here, or sometimes I would just type like, hold on, right? So now I've got something where it's not going to allow it to send immediately. So now if I go to my subject line, I say daily, we'll say DCC, Daily Good Connect tips and tricks, part 2. Now, if I go to the body of my email here, first I want to look to see if I am in my HTML. So if I go to format text, and I'm not going to be able to see that because I've got my window up here. All right, so now if I go to format text, I can see over here I've got HTML highlighted, which means I am in my HTML format. If I go to plain text here, you can see that it's gonna pop up a window that says, hey, your formatted text is going to become plain text. So if I say continue, it's going to remove that formatting. So any links, any font colors, et cetera, those are all going to change. And as you can see, it's not going to allow me even to change my font if I'm in this plain text version. So if I went and pressed HTML again, it's actually just going to keep the font or the formatting that's on that email currently. So instead, I'm going to say Control-Z, and I'm going to undo that. So now moving back to my email here. So we've already talked about navigating between the calendar and the mail. If I say Control-3, that's going to take me to my contacts. 4 will take me to my tasks. 5 will take me to my notes. And 6 will take me to the folder list and the navigation pane. So if I'm going to switch back to my mailbox here, and I've got my own little daily Could Connect inbox that I've created for the purposes of this little presentation. I can switch quickly between, if I use the Control-Shift-I, it'll switch to my inbox. Control-Shift-O will go to my outbox, but also that Control-Y, again, is going to open up that folder function. So if I say I want to go back up here, I want to go to my Daily Code Connect inbox, I'm just going to press Enter. Now I'm back in that same folder I was just in. Now, if I'm here in my Daily Code Connect inbox and I say Control-Shift-A, it'll create a new appointment. Control-Shift-A creates a new appointment. If I actually meant to create a meeting request, I can just go press Invite Attendees. That'll switch it to that meeting request mode instead. No, I don't want to see this. If I say Control-Shift-Q, though, that'll automatically open that meeting request function. If I say Control-Shift-C, that's going to create my new contact. Control-Shift-E gives me the option to create a new folder. Control-Shift-N creates a new note. So if you're a fan of using sticky notes, Happy Thursday, great. And now if I close that, it's going to go automatically over to those notes. And if I say Control-Shift-K, it's going to create a new task. So maybe my task is I want to talk to Dulce about vacation. So I'm going to talk to Dulce about vacation. I'm going to press Save and Close, and now that's going to be a task that's in my tasks over here. So here I've got this email from Dulce. If I open that, and she's got an email, she said, "Hey, everybody, I'm online. If I want to go look at the next message in this inbox, and specifically in this Daily Code Connect inbox, if I say Control period, it's going to switch to that next email down. And I can do that repeatedly. I can also go back by using the Control comma. So here I'm back in my initial email. If I want to reply to Dulce's email, I can press Control R. That will open up the reply. Or if I escape out of that, Control Shift R, that's going to allow me to reply all if I actually wanted to do that instead. Of course, be cautious and courteous when you use that reply all function. Now, if I close out of that and I say Control U just to mark Dulce's email as unread, I can use the insert function, and that's going to, as you see over here, quick flag that function. And if I do that again, press that insert button, it's going to unflag that. Now, as you can see, it's still red, but if I just go down to my, if I essentially read through it again, it'll mark it unread. One other cool thing to do here. So not only that, but you can also use the, like I said, the Control-Shift-G that will open up that flag task function, or you can use the drag and drop function. So if you just take Dulce's email here, drag it down to your tasks, and you can see that little plus, leave it, drop it in there. It's now going to create a new task. So maybe now here's where I say, actually talk, reminding myself, talk to Dulce about vacation. Right, and so this is handy if you're, rather than just flagging an email, if there's more to it, like, well, what was I trying to do with that email, or what was that task? You can write more about that, and then you can save and close. You can also just use the little flagging function here, as I mentioned. So then if I want to go look at my tasks, if I go to Control-4, now I've got these two tasks that I've just created. Let me go back to my, actually I'll go to my calendar next, and I'll say, we're going to use the Control-G function. So say I want to write something, I'm writing an email and I want to tell someone what day of the week I did something, but I can't remember what day it was because it was sometime in the past. So for example, if I say, if I want to know what day April 1st was in 2019, so if I say Control-G and I just type in 4/1/2019 and press enter, it's going to open up that week automatically, and now I know that that's a Monday. And that'll look differently depending on which format you use, but I use the week function here. As I mentioned, you can use the Control-E or the F3 function if you're trying to search for something. So if I'm going back to my mail here, and I want to say, I'm going to search for something, I can. If I want to use the F3, I can do that. It's going to automatically move my cursor up there. Or I can use Control-E. There we go. Let's open that function. So now I'm in this Daily Code Connect inbox, and I want to find the word skeletal because there's a new position created in one of my areas, and I want to figure out what that position number was. So if I press enter, that's weird. There's no results here. So why is that? Maybe I need to use my advanced find. So if I say Control-Shift-F, That's going to open up the advanced find function. So if I'm looking for the word skeletal, which should be in the position, skeletal, and say search. Okay, it's still not finding anything. That's super weird. So if I say Control-Alt-Z, that's going to expand that search to the subfolders. Now I found my skeletal position because that email was actually in the subfolder of the Daily Clue box. So just sort of a handy way to keep things in mind if you're trying to find something in your inbox and you can't find it. As I mentioned, the ignore function is sort of handy. So up here, you'll see the ignore function, ignore conversation. And that is, like I said, if people are replying all and your inbox is getting inundated, that's going to move that automatically to your deleted box. I also really like to create mailbox rules for mine. So for example, I've got this OPDRS actions folder. Basically, anytime we get an update in our online recruitment system, it sends an email to my inbox. And I've got probably about 15 of them that have come in since 12:46 a.m. this morning. So rather than having those filter all through my inbox, I have a rule set up. Basically, all you have to do is right-click on your email that you're wanting to create a rule on and go to rules here and create a rule. I'm actually working offline so that we're not getting interrupted with incoming emails. So I'm not going to go over that in detail, but it's a really helpful little wizard that'll walk you right through it. So basically, anything that comes to me from this email that has any number of the subject lines that I will get from this. So whether it's staff posting status has been updated, or interview requested for staff posting, anything with those subject lines will go to this OPDRS actions folder. I also then have an exception for it, because if there's anything that comes in that applies specifically to my areas and I want to know about that, this is going to still open that, put that in a new folder where I can find those. So if anything has the word Connors or extension or Everett, things like that, it's going to actually still go into this folder so that I have the ability to see what comes in it as new. All right, and now last but not least, like I said, I do really love the quick parts and email template functions. So here I have my email that I've been composing to Jacob. Say Jacob is actually a candidate and he's applying for a position. So if Jacob has included any kind of personal information, we don't want that in his recruitment materials. So that's an email that we pretty commonly send with an HRS. So if I want to, what I can do is if I go to, oh, now it's not going to allow me to do it. I'm going to create a new one. Okay, so new email to Jacob. I don't know why it did that, but okay. All right, so here I am. Oh, maybe it's because I'm working offline. Okay, well, we'll talk about that anyway. So over here in the view templates function, if I, oh, let's just do this. Go back to SMBC, work offline, and try. Okay, so now here I am, Jacob. All right, now I've got my view templates up. So if I click on view templates, I can see any template that I've created. So I've got some standard things that I send frequently, and I've saved them here in these templates. I can create these in a couple of ways. One is by going down here and pressing the template button. This one I'm not a huge fan of because it's tricky to get the formatting to stay where it should. So what I've done is I've got an email that I've already composed and I've got it open in the other screen. So I can just control paste that information in, and it's going to keep most of the formatting that I've added. I've added some highlights so I know to go revisit things before I actually press send on something. So then all I have to do is create a title. So personal info, press save, and now it's going to create a template where I can easily just go click on the template and it's going to automatically pop that into my inbox. Awesome. Or rather into my compose function. So then another option would be, one thing you can do is just say file, save as. You can save that as Unicode message format somewhere on your computer. That allows you to go navigate to that folder, just double click on the file that you want, open it up, and that'll do essentially the same function. The thing I think I like a little bit better here, and we'll just delete all of this, is to use the quick parts function. So with quick parts, if I say insert, I go navigate over here to quick parts. If I've got something I send commonly, like that email that I just mentioned, if I just paste that text into my email here and I say, this is the document or the text I normally want to send. All I need to do is highlight that, and I'm going to go to Quick Parts and say Save Selection to Quick Parts Gallery. That's going to allow me then to just go insert that text into a message I'm composing or replying to. So cool, I just saved a random name, but now it's a quick part. So what that allows me to do is go here and say, I just added it again, basically, since it's the same text. And if I say Control A, and I'm going to just delete all that, I can also use it for other emails I send frequently. So here we've got an email that.
Hey, Erin.
Yes.
We're not seeing the email template on your screen.
No.
Could you try resharing your screen really quick?
Are you? Sorry, go ahead.
We're just seeing your email inbox. We're not seeing the template hold up on front of that.
Oh, bummer. Okay, let's see. Let's try again.
Thank you.
Yes. Are you seeing it now?
Yes, thank you for that.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. So here I am. I've got my quick parts. Well, let's go over the templates first. So view templates, again, just going to create a template over here. And then if I click on it, it's going to pop that information right into my email. Or if I use my quick parts function, I go insert quick parts. Like I said, I can do essentially the same function. This is also handy. It doesn't have to be an entire email or anything. So if I need to, I can also use, like if I've got a common sign off, which would be something like, let me know if you have any questions or need anything else. I can also just drop that into my email as well. So sorry about that. I hope that, I guess if I need to, you can ask me, I can recover some of that, but essentially the quick parts and template functions, if there's something that you're commonly writing, you know, an email that you're usually sending repeatedly, this is going to make your job a lot easier and it'll go a lot faster. Okay, now going back to my slides here. Okay, now you should be able to see my slides. So there we go. So those are the tips and tricks I have for you. Let me know in the chat function if you'd like to see any additional tips and tricks on Microsoft Excel or PowerPoint. And if you're willing, write something in the chat that you learned today. If you have any questions or would like me to review any of these tips, let me know. Feel free to drop it in the chat function or shoot me an email. Remember, you can now earn points toward your Smart Health Wellness Incentive just by adding Daily Coug Connect, or attending Daily Coug Connect rather. Visit smarthealth.hca.wa.gov and look for the Daily Coug Connect tile to earn 50 points each week. And by earning points, you can qualify for a $25 Amazon gift card and a $125 wellness incentive, which is a reduction to your PEB medical plan deductible or a deposit into your PEB health savings account, depending on which plan you have. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to tune in to tomorrow's Daily Coug Connect to hear Dawn Reed's presentation on tough conversations. Start with heart. Go Cougs. And now I'm going to look at the chat function and see if I can quickly answer anything if I've got it.